I never expected her to remember my name, let alone everything else. Most mornings, I just came for the quiet. The cafe near our street opened early, earlier than I usually should have been awake. But it was warm and the lights were soft, and no one asked why a 23-year-old sat in the corner pretending to read. I'd stay there long enough for my brain to unstick from the night before. That's where she found me again. I didn't hear her walk in, just the faint shuffle, the door's soft chime, and then her voice, low, familiar in a way that didn't make sense yet. "Thought that was you," she said. I looked up. Maria, my friend's mother. A little damp from the morning air, hair tucked loosely behind her ear, like she got ready too quickly or didn't care to pretend she hadn't rushed. She had a paper bag in one hand, her work badge clipped to her coat pocket. She worked long shifts at the clinic. I knew that much. "You're up early," I said, and it came out more awkward than I meant. She smiled, quietly, without showing teeth. "Same could be said for you." She glanced at the cup in front of me. Americano, 1 sugar. Still, I blinked. I didn't know she remembered that. I didn't even remember telling her. She set her bag on my table without asking and stood there like she wasn't sure if she was staying or leaving. Her fingers rested on the edge of the chair opposite me, drumming once, then stopping, as if she caught herself. I noticed small things. The cracked leather of her bag strap, the faint smell of citrus soap, her thumb brushing against the coffee sleeve she held. "How's your mom?" she asked. "She's all right." "Busy." I hesitated. "She asked about you, actually." "Oh." A soft, almost surprised sound. "What did she say?" "That she misses talking to you." She huffed a little laugh, looking down. "She always says that and never calls." I shrugged. "You both do that." She finally sat, but only halfway, perched, like she might stand again if I said something strange. I could feel the caution between us. Not heavy, just polite. Polite in a way that made me want to say something I shouldn't. "You look tired," she said. "You look colder than tired," I replied. That made her tilt her head, giving me one of those looks, half amused, half warning. Be careful with compliments this early. It wasn't a compliment. So a warning? More like an observation. I looked at her hands without meaning to. They were wrapped around her cup, warming her fingers. She noticed and tucked her hands under the table. A small thing, but it hit harder than it should. We talked for a bit, nothing special. Clinic schedules. My strange habit of collecting unfinished books. Her neighbor's cat that kept visiting her porch. But the pauses were louder than the words. She'd start a sentence, stop, look out the window like she needed permission to finish it. I'd nod too quickly, or too slowly, or not at all. When she finally stood, she slipped the strap of her bag over her shoulder, missing the loop the first time. "I should go before I'm late," she said. "Yeah, I'll see you around." She hesitated by the door. A beat, then another. She didn't look back, but I saw her pause, just long enough to make me wonder if she wanted to. I stayed until my coffee went cold, folded my napkin into neat squares without noticing, typed a message to her, "Good seeing you today," then erased it twice. As I stepped outside, my phone buzzed. A new voicemail. From her. Time-stamped 1:14 a.m. I hadn't even known she'd called. And before I pressed play, something in my chest shifted, quiet, certain, dangerously curious. I didn't listen to the voicemail right away. I told myself it was because I was walking home, because I wanted privacy, because maybe it was a mistake. But the truth was simpler. I was afraid of what I'd hear. Or what I wouldn't. I finally played it that afternoon. It was 3 seconds. Just breathing. A soft exhale, like someone debating whether to speak. And then her voice, barely there. "Sorry." Nothing else. No explanation. No follow-up text. Just that apology hanging in my ear like a thread I wasn't sure I wanted to pull. I saw her again 2 days later. Not at the cafe, but at the grocery store. I was reaching for a box on the top shelf, stretching awkwardly, when she walked past with a basket hooked on her arm. She noticed me, slowed, then doubled back. "You're going to knock something over like that," she said. "You could help instead of judging." She raised a brow, but reached up anyway, easily grabbing the box. "You're tall enough. You just overthink simple things." "That's not true." "It absolutely is." She handed me the box and brushed a loose hair behind her ear. Her fingers trembled slightly. Maybe from the cold. Maybe not. We stood there in the aisle too long for two people pretending to shop. Hey, I said before I could stop myself. I got a voicemail from you. Her eyes flicked up sharply. Did you? Yeah. Late. Like really late. Oh. She looked away, pretending to examine a jar of pasta sauce she clearly wasn't planning to buy. Must have been an accident. You said sorry. That also must have been an accident. It was absurd. But her voice was quieter now, the kind people use when they don't want to lie but can't tell the truth either. We ended up leaving together, walking side by side in that slow, unsure way. She carried only one bag. Holding it with both hands like having something to do made her feel steadier. Can I ask you something? I said. She hesitated. If I say no, will you still ask? Probably. She exhaled a tired laugh. Go ahead then. Are you okay? I'm always okay. She shifted the bag, her shoulder brushing mine briefly. That's my thing, remember? I didn't know that was your thing. Well, her smile was small but honest. Now you do. We reached her car. She unlocked it but didn't get in. Instead, she leaned lightly against the door, studying me in this slow, deliberate way that made everything inside me tighten. You were a sweet kid, she said. Quiet. Polite. Your mother always bragged about you. I repeated. You're different now. How? More present. Her voice softened. It's a little disarming. I didn't know what to do with that. Or with the fact that she looked at me like she regretted saying it, but didn't take it back. She opened her door finally. Drive safe, okay? I walked. Oh. She paused. Then walk safe. Before she got in, I reached out without planning to, just touched the edge of her sleeve, brushing off a tiny speck of lint. It was nothing. A simple, pointless gesture. But she froze. Not pulling away. Not leaning in. Just still. And for some reason, that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. I didn't see her for almost a week. Not because she was avoiding me. At least, that's what I told myself. But because life simply shifted. My shifts changed. Her schedule stretched longer. The cafe got louder. Routine moved like a river, and we drifted to opposite edges of it. But the silence felt pointed. On the 6th day, she texted. You at the cafe? Just that. No greeting. No explanation. I stared at the screen too long before typing back. Yeah. She arrived 15 minutes later, hair still damp from a shower, coat unbuttoned like she rushed the whole way. She scanned the room before spotting me. And then something tightened in her expression. Relief? Restraint? I couldn't tell. You look tired, I said when she sat. She gave a small, brittle laugh. You say that every time. It's always true. She didn't answer. Just wrapped both hands around her tea, shoulders curling inward as if she was cold in a room that wasn't. For a minute, we didn't speak. The cafe hummed around us, steam hissing, chairs scraping, someone coughing behind us. She tapped the side of her cup rhythmically, then stopped mid-tap, realizing I was watching. I shouldn't have called you that night, she said quietly. You didn't call. Well, the voicemail. She swallowed, eyes fixed on the window. It was a mistake. Because of me? Because of everything. Her voice cracked just barely. You're my son's friend. And I'm older, I finished. She flinched. Not visibly, just a tiny pause in her breathing. Older, she echoed. Her phone buzzed on the table. A message flashing across the screen, her son's name. She flipped it face down too quickly. I looked away, giving her the space she wasn't asking for but clearly needed. She exhaled slowly. He keeps asking why you and I talk so much lately. Oh, it's nothing, she said too fast. Just a comment. But comments meant suspicion. And suspicion meant danger. Her tea had gone cold by then, though she kept holding it like warmth might return if she waited long enough. I didn't mean to complicate things, I said. You didn't. But her fingers tightened on the cup. I did. A silence formed, thin but sharp. I felt it in my chest. She reached for her bag suddenly. I should go before. Before what? She didn't say. Before someone saw us. Before she forgot why she shouldn't stay. But as she stood, her scarf snagged on the chair. She cursed under her breath, leaning down to untangle it. Without thinking, I knelt too, my hand brushing hers as we reached for the same knot of fabric. We froze. Her breath hitched, soft, involuntary. Her eyes lifted slowly to mine. Close. Closer than we'd ever been. Her knee touched my leg. She didn't move it. Careful, she whispered. Not a warning. Not exactly. I swallowed. I am. Our hands were still touching the scarf, fingers almost locking. Almost. She drew in a shaky breath, her lips parting just enough, a half-confession forming, dying there. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she pulled her hand back, too fast, stood too straight, stepped away like the floor burned. I can't, she said, barely audible. But the way she looked at me, it wasn't can't. It was almost. It happened on an evening that wasn't meant to matter. Not dramatic. Not planned. Just a Thursday. I was walking home from work when I saw her sitting on the small bench outside the neighborhood pharmacy, elbows on her knees, head bowed. She looked like someone trying to breathe through something heavy. I almost kept walking. Almost. But she lifted her head at the exact moment I passed, and our eyes caught. Brief, tired, asking, "You okay?" I said. Her attempt at a smile was thin. "Long day. Want company?" She hesitated, like she shouldn't, like she knew better. Then she nodded. I sat beside her, leaving a few inches between us. Not enough to be impersonal, not enough to be anything else. The streetlights flickered on. A car rumbled past. Her shoulders relaxed by degrees, like each minute made her less careful. "He brought up your name again," she said. "Your son." She nodded. Asked if I talked to you. Said he saw us at the store last week. That bothering you? It shouldn't. She rubbed her palms together. But it does. I leaned back, watching the dim pharmacy sign flicker. Why? She looked at me with something uneasy. Fear, maybe. Or guilt wearing the mask of responsibility. Because, she whispered, I don't know what to tell him. The air thinned between us. I waited. She didn't continue. You can tell him we're friends, I offered. That's the problem. She let out a slow breath. I don't feel like your friend. Not exactly. My pulse jumped. Then what do I feel like? She stared at her hands, thumbs tracing each other in nervous circles. Like someone I think about more than I should. Those words. Quiet, but devastating. I didn't speak. Couldn't. She filled the silence with another breath, cracked at the edges. I keep replaying that almost moment at the cafe, she murmured. I shouldn't have let it happen. You didn't, I said softly. It just happened. That's what scares me. She finally looked up. Her eyes were glassy but steady. I feel like I'm losing the part of myself that knows better. My throat tightened. You're not. Then why? She said, voice trembling. Do I want to sit here with you and forget every reason I shouldn't? We sat in that truth. A gentle, unbearable silence. A couple walked by. A siren wailed somewhere far. She kept her eyes on me, searching for something, permission, denial, escape. I thought I was just lonely, I admitted. But it's not that. She blinked. Then what is it? You, I said. Barely a word. More like air-forming sound. Her breath caught. I didn't touch her. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But her vulnerability held me in place like a command. She inched closer, almost imperceptibly. Her knee brushed mine, a trembling connection. Her hand hovered near my thigh, not touching, just waiting. Tell me I'm imagining this, she whispered. Tell me you don't feel it too. The question hung there, open, raw, irreversible if answered. I parted my lips, and the moment balanced on a blade. I didn't answer her question that night. Or maybe I did, just not out loud. The silence between us held the truth too clearly, and maybe that's why the moment cracked instead of settling. She stood abruptly, like something inside her snapped into self-defense mode. I should go, she said. Maria, no. If I stay, I'll say something I can't undo. And she walked away before I could catch up. I didn't follow. I didn't trust myself to. The next morning, she wasn't at the cafe. The day after, still nothing. By the third day, the absence felt intentional. I texted her once. Everything okay? No reply. I told myself she was busy. Work. Her son. Life. It was the kind of logic you use to convince your chest not to tighten. On the fifth day, I caved and walked to her house. Not to knock, just to pass by. I saw her car in the driveway. Curtains cracked slightly. Light on in the kitchen. She was home. She was just quiet. I turned to leave, but the door opened behind me. Hey. It was her son. The last person I wanted to see. He squinted at me. You looking for my mom? I swallowed. No, just walking. He nodded, but something in his expression tightened. She's been weird lately. You notice? My heart thudded once. Weird how? He shrugged. Just distant. Staring at her phone a lot. Deleting messages. You'd think she was hiding someone. I forced a laugh that didn't sound like mine. Maybe work stuff. Maybe. He didn't look convinced. Before he could say anything else, I stepped back. See you around. He nodded and closed the door. I walked away, a knot forming in the base of my spine. Deleting messages. Hiding someone. Was that me? Was I the storm she was trying to unhear? That night, she finally texted. We need to slow down. Just that. No explanation. No apology. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Slow down from what? We hadn't even begun anything. We'd hovered, circled, almost touched, but always stopped. I typed a reply. If I crossed a line, tell me. Deleted it. Typed again. I miss talking to you. Deleted that too. Finally, I'm here if you want to talk. And then I didn't send it. I just watched the empty text box, feeling ridiculous. The next morning, she returned to the cafe, but not to our table. She sat on the opposite side of the room, coat still on, scarf still looped tight like armor. She didn't glance my way. Not once. I waited for a look. A nod. Something. Nothing came. When she stood to leave, she nearly reached for her usual sleeve-tugging gesture, then stopped herself mid-motion, fingers curling into a fist instead. That hurt more than it should have. I watched her go without following. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. That evening, I drafted a message. I didn't imagine what happened, did I? My thumb hovered over send. I didn't plan on going to her house. I told myself I was just walking again, clearing my head, doing something normal. But my feet carried me there anyway, stopping at the familiar turn in the street, then continuing before I could talk myself out of it. Her porch light was on. A soft, warm glow. Not an invitation. Not a warning. Just light. I stood at the bottom step for a long time, hands in my pockets, rehearsing nothing. I wasn't even sure if she'd open the door. When I finally knocked, it wasn't loud. More like a suggestion. It took her a moment to answer. She opened the door halfway, hair pulled back loosely, wearing a plain sweater like she'd been halfway through evening chores. She looked surprised. Not angry. Not relieved. Just caught. Like she'd been thinking of something she didn't want anyone to see. Hey, I said. She exhaled. You shouldn't be here. I know. A pause. A long one. She didn't close the door, though. She stepped back just enough for me to enter if I chose. I didn't. I stayed on the porch, letting the cool air settle around us. You didn't send your message, she said quietly. My chest tightened. How do you know I wrote one? You have that look. I huffed a soft, tired laugh. What look? The one where you're holding words in your teeth so they don't escape. We stood there, shifting in tiny, nervous ways. My fingers dug into my pockets. She toyed with the sleeve of her sweater, the same way she'd tugged her coat at the cafe, the same way she'd frozen when we almost touched. Did I do something wrong? I asked. No, she shook her head slowly. No, you didn't. Then why pull away? She looked over my shoulder, like she needed the dark street to answer for her. Because this could get messy. For both of us. Messy isn't the same as wrong. That's exactly what scares me. I stepped closer, just one step. She didn't retreat, but she wrapped her arms around herself, a small self-protective gesture. I don't want to lose my son's trust, she murmured. Or yours. Or myself in all this. You won't lose mine. You say that now. And you say that like you don't believe me. Her eyes lifted. Raw. Unshielded. I don't know what to believe anymore. Another silence. Thick. Waited. Then she spoke again, softer than before. I think about you too much. And I don't know how to feel about that. My heartbeat stumbled. You don't have to decide everything tonight. She let out a trembling breath. Then what are you here for? To stop pretending we imagined it. She blinked once, slowly. The kind of blink someone uses when they've been holding a truth too long, and it finally gets heavy. Okay, she whispered. Just that. But something eased in her posture, something let go. Her arms dropped to her sides. Her shoulders lowered. I reached out, careful, hesitant, and touched her hand. Not a grab. Just contact. Skin to skin. A question. She didn't pull back. Instead, she threaded her fingers lightly through mine and squeezed, barely there, like a promise she wasn't ready to name. The porch light hummed above us. The night held still around us. And she whispered again, softer. Okay. But in the end, I locked my phone and left the message unsent. White heavy checkmark prompt 7. The conclusion, slow emotional closure, 500 words. They don't fall into a relationship so much as they drift toward one. The way two people walking the same route eventually begin matching steps without realizing it. Weeks pass. Not dramatic ones. Just ordinary days that quietly rearrange themselves around each other. They no longer meet by accident. He still arrives at 8:47 a.m., though now he stands inside the doorway instead of pretending to check his phone outside. She still makes tea. He still asks for black coffee he inevitably forgets to drink until it goes cold. Some mornings they talk. Some mornings they don't. Both kinds feel intimate. What changed is subtle. He listens differently now. She lets herself look at him a beat longer. Their conversations have small cracks where something unspoken hums underneath, no longer afraid to be heard. One evening, rain slows the city down to a hush, and he walks her home. They don't touch. They don't need to. Their shoulders drift closer whenever a car splashes past, then drift apart again. A quiet rhythm. Her apartment is warm from the lamp she always leaves on. He steps inside only far enough to shake off the rain. She doesn't ask him to stay. He doesn't expect her to. But neither of them move. It's not tension anymore. It's recognition. She glances at the familiar chipped mug on her shelf, the one he teased her about months ago when he first saw it. He sees her looking at it and smiles, a small, private curve of his mouth that feels like a shared secret. We're okay, right? He asks. It's not insecurity. It's an offering. We're better, she answers, and she surprises herself with how true it feels. Life doesn't magically rearrange. She still overthinks. He still hesitates. They both catch themselves worrying they might be misreading everything. But the difference now is simple. They say the quiet parts out loud, little by little. They keep meeting, on purpose. They keep walking, side by side. No labels, no dramatic declarations. Just the slow, steady gravity of two people who stopped pretending they weren't orbiting each other. Some Sundays, they sit on the bench near her place, the same one where everything nearly spilled over weeks ago. He brings his sketchbook. She brings something warm in a thermos. Their knees brush sometimes. Nobody pulls away. There's a moment, one soft afternoon, when he rests his hand close to hers on the bench. Not touching, just close enough that her finger grazes his when she shifts. He doesn't look up. She doesn't move her hand. It's not a grand gesture, but it anchors something inside both of them. Later, as they walk back, she notices he's carrying her empty thermos without thinking. She lets him. Inside her doorway, she pauses. Not out of fear, out of gratitude. For the slowness. For the almosts. For the fact that they found their way to something steady without shattering anything. He turns as if to leave, then stops. You good? He asks softly. She nods. Yeah, you. He exhales, a gentle, real sound. Yeah. It's nothing. It's everything. They part with a small, shared smile. One that says we're choosing this. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just honestly. And later, when she thinks about it, she realizes something. It didn't feel like a happy ending. It felt like a beginning only they would understand.